All right.
Yo, state of everything.
What is up?
Oh, what's happening out there? Y'all hear me?
Now we can.
Dude, amazing. How are you doing in Chicago today, Matthias?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. I'm gonna jump the gun here. We got Clencher double IPA.
Wonderful.
This is a local beer, just on the street. Buckle Down Brewing. Shout out. You guys are my first craft beer, because I don't count Lagunitas as a craft beer.
I love that. A little something, a little whatever. Having the brews, having the hops. I got this IPA here. I think it's Twin Oak. I'm not really sure. I bought it from this Tony's Slice House. I'm in Henderson, Nevada, which is a suburb of Las Vegas, and I think it's a local beer, but I don't know. So I'm having this IPA, and I'm enjoying the ambiance here. As you can see, I'm outside. It looks beautiful. You see the ceiling, beautiful sky, and wonderful Italian villa architecture. Really nice and not kitschy at all. And it's beautiful here. And I'm so happy to be able to broadcast live from God's country and the beautiful cities of America, watching the state of everything.
Amen, dude. Amen. Yeah, I think you guys got some clear skies over there, and perfect podcasting environment right now. It seems like
This is where the greatest minds podcast.
Yeah.
They come to Henderson, Nevada, and they go ahead and podcast. And everyone around me knows that there's really important shit going on this laptop right now. This is where all the magic happens. So they better know it. People are here, they're gambling their life savings away. All they have. I put in a 20 and I got 30 back more. I got 50 back, 60 back. Yeah, I won $40 today. So I'm really living the American dream, Matthias. What do you have to say about that?
I'm so happy for you and proud of you. I suspect you played slots.
Yeah.
You wanna yeah, not a big slot guy. I believe you and I rolled, and I tried slots. I just lost it pretty quick. You seem to have a little bit of a winning stretch there. Can you tell us what your strategy is for slots? How you win all the time?
Yeah, so I'm really into machine learning right now, deep AI kind of algorithms, and basically you have to understand the essence. I don't know if you do, but I understand the essence of technology these days, and so I am, peering into the future, and by putting in a nice little Andrew Jackson into one of these machines here in Nevada, I just know I have this intuitive seventh sense that gives me the idea that you know what, this is going to work out. I mean, not all of them do. You have to be very intuitive about this kind of thing, Matthias, and I don't know if you are. So do you know anything about the seventh sense?
I've heard of it. Yes. Yeah. In terms of gambling, I'm not familiar with that application, but I have, I think, heard of the Seventh Sense. I mean, is there a movie called The Seventh Sense? Is that the Seventh Sense that you're talking about?
Is that the one where they see dead things? I don't know. Look, what I'm trying to say here is that there is a massive thing going on right now, and it's called connective power, okay? It's the power of networks. And basically everything is connected to everything, and we're connected right now against all odds. You're out in the frozen tundra where there's polar vortices, and it's really cold here too. But that's besides the point. The point is, all these networks are going to come together, and it's going to envelope into something larger that we can't really put our we don't really know what's going on here. So we're just kind of listening to the things. I got a quote. No, I don't. What do you have to say about that?
What I have to say is that I wish that I had prepared more for this, because we'll do more on the Seventh Sense just in general, because this is really something that maybe it's because I'm naive, but this seems to be in a nutshell, what I think is the best vision, most realistic interpretation of what the future may look like and the forces that may influence that the most, based on what I consider to be probably one of the most accurate interpretations of technology that's coming today and how that affects how we live our lives.
Sure. And so I think what we're referring to is this, it's a Joshua Cooper Ramo book that I've actually plugged here in Las Vegas. I've told people about it. I've only started it. I haven't really read a lot about it, but it's basically The Seventh Sense, Power, Fortune, and Survival in the Age of Networks. And there's a really nice quote that is at the end of the first chapter, if you don't mind if I read it a little bit here. I think it says a lot about where we're going, you know? So the guy says, Ramo says, "Let me tell you what's going to happen." He's a bit of a futurist, you know? So, quote, "In coming years, there will be a struggle between those who have the seventh sense, who are born with it or trained to it, and those who don't. This is already underway. New network forces all around us are attacking old established ones in business, politics, warfare, and science. Then, because those who don't have the seventh sense for network power will lose these contests, as anyone who tries to stop the future always loses, a new age will begin. This age will involve violent historic wrestling amongst different groups with different versions of the seventh sense. Competing interests and ideals and aims will guide these contending forces. Networks will fight networks. Some of the plans of these connected age groups will be good, others evil. Anyhow, the winners will be ruthless. Then, and this is where it will get particularly strange and incredible, there will be a battle between those with the seventh sense and the very systems of connection, machines, and intelligence that they have built. Human instincts will compete against the machine instincts. That struggle, I'm not quite sure how it will turn out. But for now, at least we can say this. The future sits almost like a cold-eyed dare in front of us. Just try to avoid this."
He said, that's the first chapter, you said?
Well, it's a quote, yeah. So I just read a page from the Seventh Sense by Joshua Cooper Ramo, and it's an incredible story. Well, it's an incredible idea, because it's talking about how we can understand what this connective power means and how we can kind of, I don't want to use the word weaponize because that sounds dangerous, but I mean, use this kind of, interconnectedness to our, to our advantage, and who's going to have this power and what does it mean for all of us?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's you're right. I think it all comes down to control of the networks. I mean, that's the one thing that I kind of took away, is how we treat these networks. And I know you're not thinking this because you read it, Alex, but what networks are, and I think one of the ways that he describes it is basically that all the systems we rely on that we think we control, financial or political or digital, can all be made weird and pawned by forces that we cannot see, that we struggle to stop. Presidential campaigns can manipulate voter turnout by targeting citizens with data-led precision. Financial groups can remove the pretext of a level playing field in markets because of their immense access to data. The network cannot be regarded as harmless anymore. So we have this very benign attitude towards networks. I mean, the obvious one is Facebook. That's been in the news a whole bunch. But networks are increasingly becoming, I think, just about everything. Everything is becoming networked to each other. We have refrigerators that everything's connected to Wi-Fi, which is all connected to the power grid, which is potentially liable to be hacked by a foreign power. You can talk about networks of trade, the free trade or the trading routes that we have, and economic relationships, and laws and ways that people choose to live their lives, and values. It's all kind of interrelated, and these networks are the Facebook is so powerful because so many people are a part of it. You can't really introduce another competing Facebook because it won't nobody is a part of it. They get their power by their usage. So there's, by their definition, there's lots of people on one end who use it or tap into the network or are the network. And then there are people who are controlling and making the rules for everybody else. And that's very powerful. It also is a very well-defined mode of potential attack if you can focus. And, it's just a very interesting element of life in the 21st century that we are just becoming aware of, and we are just learning to, Josh, this guy seems to be the first to interpret that and lay out a plan for the future within a liberal, a democratic order, so that appreciates the values that, independence, liberalism, freedom, everything that we value. He's the one who kind of he's applying both those worlds. So is that fair to say? You got to tell me to shut up more, man.
Man, you come not prepared. You just ramble. I mean, what is this even? But going off on another little bit of a tangent, I suppose I think that it makes me think about how fragile all this is. I mean, this is a powerful thing we're talking about, but if you really look into the future, though, I mean, if you imagine all of your data and all of your information and everything of your person becomes digitized, and if that's easily accessed by anybody, it kind of makes you realize how fragile we are and how fragile our information is. And it makes me a bit worried, because I look into the future, if I can put my futurist hat on here, basically, I imagine a world where you think about how we're already cyborgs. I mean, the definition of a cyborg is basically being dependent on technology and how it's connected to you. Well, we're essentially already there, right? We are literally cyborgs, and
Yeah.
that's where we're at. So when you take that a step further and you inject this into your body, if you implant a chip of some sort and you become the technology, if that gets hacked, right? Or if that gets in the wrong hands, obviously it's the Russians, because the Russians are responsible for everything that's bad these days, according to some liberal minds out there that are bright and wonderful and they know everything, that you could probably tell me more about. But say the Russians have your information with this microchip that is implanted into you. It's an embedded technology that's very real, and it's actually already happening. There's some, employers, I think, in Scandinavia that I've seen that they just walk up and they scan their wrist because they have an embedded way of, that's their access key. It's insane. And I say that I would never do that, but what's the difference between doing that and then having like the internet in your eye, where you just think about like a Google search, with VUI, voice user interface, basically say like, yo, talk to Matthias, like access state of everything on Anchor and Spotify and wherever else you listen to your podcast, possibly YouTube too. And you say that, and it's this prompt, and it just like, okay, it just goes in my head. I just start hearing it. I don't even need earbuds or AirPods or whatever the cool kids have these days, because it's an implanted thing in my brain. This is a very far-fetched thing that might not be as far-fetched as we think. And so if that information gets in the wrong hands, that's the power of connective power in a dark dystopian aspect. And you have to think about those aspects of possibilities in order to prevent them,
Yeah, I mean, I think you're absolutely right, man. I mean, there's a way to think about things and how long term. I mean, I think people are going to take a little while to adopt some of this. I mean, just looking at it, it seems pretty foreign, and I don't know if people are so willing to jump in and have a piece of plastic put in their arms so that they can open up a door faster. I mean, for some people, I think it's like disabilities can really be useful and those types of innovations, but I don't know. I mean, for me, I am old school. I don't even like the idea of having an echo in my house, listening always to everything. But that is something that might just be me. You know, everyone else is most people seem to be okay with it, but that just kind of freaks me out. But, you know, I don't, it's not necessarily for me. I've got a quote here from this guy, Thomas Dulien, who's in the book. And he says, being hacked is a loss of control without change of ownership or possession. So,
sorry, being what is? Can you repeat that?
Being hacked is a loss of control, or no, being hacked is loss of control without, yeah, sorry. Thomas Dulien, being hacked is loss of control without change of ownership or possession. So, you know, that can apply to, I think, a lot of different things. And, you know, maybe it's one of the things that we've talked about earlier with social media or Twitter, you know, like the MAGA hat kids and the Native American, if that was, you know, it actually happened and everything, but if somebody took that with an intent, you know, I guess that's what everyone does on the platform, is try to get your thoughts out there or whatever. But if it was done specifically by a state power or somebody connected to it, I'm not saying that it was, but it could be maybe in the future. I mean, there's probably a learning lesson. It's just an important, you know, it happened. So maybe that's the equivalent of our minds getting hacked. That's a hard way. Maybe it's not the most accurate way, but it's interesting. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's definitely that argument. In terms of Amazon Echo and all that, I have some stats here. 58% of consumers have used voice search to find local business information in the past 12 months. Nearly 1 in 5 adults have used it in the last month. And by 2020, it is predicted that nearly half of all of our searches will be through VUI, or voice user interface, and people expect this to increase. You know, humans can speak 150 words per minute as opposed to typing 40 a minute. So this is this idea of moving everything faster, moving it into a smoother kind of reality, supposedly. And people are going to want to talk to their technology more and more, and this is going to happen. And it's going to be an interesting, you know, thing where I'm with you on the Amazon bit, where if you have one of these devices in your home, it's going to hear everything you say. But you know, regardless if you're talking to it or not. But then you have the argument where we already have phones that listen to everything anyways, so it's already happening. I mean, this is real though. Like there are aspects, or there's reports or whatever of people like saying things to their friend or whatever, and then seeing an ad about it later. Like you'll be at the store or whatever, and you'll say something like, "Oh, look how great those TVs are. I love those TVs," and it knows that you were at the electronics store, and it knows that you're talking about this specific TV. You get home and you go to your device and it shows you all these things. This is something that already happens. You know, it's invasive advertising that we're essentially welcoming into our lives through connectivity.
Was that example with a phone?
I think it was a phone. Yeah. And it shows up on like as a Facebook ad or whatever, you know?
That's insane. Yeah. So, I mean, here's another quote. I guess I'm just going to keep reading off quotes from this book, so everyone can just suck it. But
you don't have any good ideas of your own.
It's true. Life in our connected age is instant and almost always on. This demolishes an older, easier sense of pace. Computers were once switched on at 9 and off at 5, just like their human masters. But digital activity is constant now. The networks are paying attention all the time. So, yeah, I mean, listening to us, people just don't, I mean, I think we talked about it earlier, fundamental human right is people's data. Very simple. That should just be added to the list of human rights, and people should own it, and it should be theirs, because it's information, it's valuable, it's their habits, and you can sign it away if you want, but it should be served saved locally with people, and they're, I don't know the I don't know the details of how the technology works, but I mean, I just think that, and maybe I don't know that much about Europe or what they're doing. I'm sure there's some things that need to be taken into consideration for business interests, and there's a balance there with companies still being profitable and using the data, but I don't know. I think that it's a little bit too far on kind of the other side right now, with just people using businesses using people's data, and that might not be able to continue forever. There might be other risks involved the more that the data becomes involved in other aspects of our lives that become more personal. Who knows?
Who knows?
It's a good book though, man. How far are you?
So you just started it, but there's another idea here that I thought was incredibly interesting. Is this this quote here? I don't want to just read quotes from Joshua Cooper Ramo all day, but this is interesting stuff that is related to this conversation. Reliable access to a great translation algorithm will one day be more important than the ability to speak English or Chinese or Spanish. Basically, it's this interesting idea of like, teach the kids how to build the algorithms that are going to be able to have you, jump in a cab in Barcelona, and you're going to say, hi, how are you? And the cab driver hears, hola, ¿cómo estás? Educating people with, this technology of ease of how we can, talk to each other is going to be more valuable in the future than, as opposed to actually learning the human languages. Learning the AI algorithm languages are going to be more important than learning the human languages, because it'll be easily translatable. But then again, it goes into this argument that we're talking about, where if your words are going to go through a filter, that means your words are being listened once again by, whoever, the overlords, the AI overlords that I love and I cherish and I praise every day, because I know they're going to be in power soon. And I'm their biggest fan. Look, hey, state of everything. Look, AI overlords, if you want to listen, if you want to sponsor us, if you want to give us, the whatever, like, we're here for you, and we're happy that you're going to take over soon, because humans aren't very good at this.
Yeah, I mean, again, I think some of that kind of plays back into data being a human right and everyone owning it themselves, and so you can have those conversations and know that it's like some like saying who they're not. I mean, the technology's got to kind of improve, yeah, man, I think this is the last quote I'm going to say, but it says, he writes, what if we could rewire our thinking, our networks, and politics and economics to match the problems we face now? Poverty, fundamentalism, inequality of various kinds, disease. The Seventh Sense shows us, as it has shown entrepreneurs and traders and terrorists, a topological landscape on which we can begin to construct new edifices. So that just kind of, to me, those are the quotes. Those are the descriptions. The guy is onto something. It's a start, and it's, quite frankly, it's a more believable and interesting and inspiring idea that I can wrap my head around, and it's better than any politician has offered, which says a lot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, these politicians don't know anything about all this. Like when Zuckerberg had his hearing, all these old geezers have no idea about any of it. They don't know how to log into a Facebook account. So what's the point of grilling these guys that are just kind of like, basically, probably laughing inside about their, what is Congress? Like, what do most of these people know about any of this? I mean, I don't know if, this is why it's important to have these conversations and to read up on this stuff and actually know, how these systems work, because we're going to have to. We're confronted with that. We're the first generation, like, that is going to have to know how these things are connected, because this is the future that we're already living in. You know what I mean? And this is why millennials, people, can talk shit about whatever we are, that we're more socialist or whiny or whatever. We're innovative. We have to be more innovative because we're the first generation that's confronted with this digital world. And it's completely immersive now. The human and the digital are going to become more and more aligned with each other, and they're going to fuse into one eventually. They already are. Like right now, look at what we're doing. Like texting you, or like I'm talking to you an avatar. You're not even real. You're like a screen guy. You're like a guy on a screen, but like you're real because you're a human. But when I'm texting someone on a phone, I'm texting it's what is that? I mean, it's transmission. It's human to human transmission, but it's only because of the system, right? It's because we have evolved into this ESP kind of like. I mean, we're basically, what's the right word, man? What's the word when you just think of something and it's transmitting thoughts, man? It is ESP. Yeah, that thing. We're stupid, obviously. We don't know the basics.
Sorry, I'm getting
telekinesis?
distracted.
I don't know.
Telekinesis, yeah.
I don't think that's it.
I'm getting distracted by the people walking by.
Love it. Love this place, man. This is where dreams go.
Yeah, man. The clouds are so wispy, and that sky is just so cerulean. It's blinding, nearly.
Pretty Jesual.
Yeah. But yeah, man. I don't know. I had an idea, or I was going to say something. I guess. Yeah. Totally different. There's like a cure for cancer that we're like, that's a year away, potentially. I mean, have you known that? Did you know that?
Nope.
I just found that out tonight. There's a cure for cancer, and somewhere in Europe, the UK maybe, that they've got it, and it's like there's tests, and yeah, a year from now they're going to do some more. They're going to do some more tests, and potentially Canada has something that's got like a 60% success rate of like basically curing cancer. So that's insane, man. Why did I just find that out now? I don't know, but
well,
that's insane. Right?
Give us more information. I don't think anybody knows that there is a cure to cancer.
Well, that's all I've heard thus far. I mean, I literally, maybe you can Google it now because I don't feel like doing that. But there's, I mean, I heard about it. I was at dinner. I was just told that. So people were lying to me maliciously, but I was the one on the outs when they brought it up, and I felt like an idiot.
Well, that's probably because you are an idiot. But there's an article here on ABC News. I'll bring it up. We'll post a link in the description box below, where you can also, by the way, like and subscribe. But make sure you hit the notification bell so you don't miss any of our podcasts. Make sure you do that. Thank you so much to our many listeners. The ABC News article is called "Company Claims to Have Complete Cure for Cancer Within a Year, but is it too good to be true?" There are over 200 human cancers, one expert said. This is by Dr. Erica Orsini. An Israeli biopharmaceutical company recently announced that it would be able to cure cancer within the next year. But is the claim too good to be true? Quote, "We believe we will offer in a year's time a complete cure for cancer," Dan Arador, chairman of the board for Accelerated Evolution Biotechnologies, told the Jerusalem Post. Quote, "Our cancer cure will be effective from day one, will last a duration of weeks, and will have no or minimal side effects at a much lower cost than other treatments on the market. Our solution will be both generic and personal." AEBI claims it has developed a technology that makes use of personalized therapy to target cancer cells specific to each patient, a claim that has been met with skepticism in the medical community and on this podcast. I mean, color me skeptical. I mean, it's awesome. Obviously, if this is true, I mean, hell yeah, man. Like, cancer is horrible. It's taken family members, it's taken friends, it's stupid, it's the worst, and it's dumb, and I hate it. And if the AI overlords are listening, that if they can do it, that would be great. But if also this Israeli biopharmaceutical company, if they were able to do it, I stand behind that wholeheartedly, but who knows, man? I mean, we're not biopharmaceutical experts. So
No, it just my takeaway was, well, there's a lot of shit happening, but that is amazing. Think how much money people are donating every day. I feel like that's what keeps a lot of hospitals afloat is, or potentially their research. Some hospitals are probably research and they're, that's going to wipe out a lot, but I mean, whatever, I'd much rather have the cure for cancer. But I think it's just, I mean, we've been shooting for this cure for how long? How many years? That's going to be remembered as an insane accomplishment for humanity. I mean, what's going to kill us now?
well,
At
don't
that
get
point,
ahead of yourself. Don't get ahead of yourself. It's not.
well, it's going to happen eventually, man. I mean, it's just a matter of time, I think. I mean, it's just a matter of time. It has to be just a matter of time, as long as
What's going to
technology.
kill us now? I mean, literally anything.
Well, think about it. Think how many people die from cancer. I mean, I think like people are just going to live longer lives, which means I think we'll need to figure out how to maintain the longevity of our minds. I think we're going to have to figure out how to combat Alzheimer's and just any other degenerative kind of thing that happens to people's brains and their minds, so that if you can live to be 150 years old or whatever, your brain is actually coherent and there, right?
Sure. I mean, I personally, I think that in our lifetimes there will be the option to download. You're going to be able to upload your brain. Hi. You're going to be able to upload your brain into a technological device.
You should ask them what they think about uploading their brains to.
They're on the move, man. They got money to waste. Um, I'm glad they made an appearance though. For all our listeners, we have a lot of fans. We're doing a live episode, guys. Live show in Henderson, Nevada. So what I was gonna say is I think like if you look at that the Black Mirror episode San Junipero, where you have the cloud and you have this basically like this device like a big server where everybody has the opportunity to be uploaded into this massive computer at the end of your life, which is basically, I mean, it's not that far-fetched. Like, think about all the data we have on us already. If you put all the data in your brain into some kind of device, it's not that far-fetched to imagine that you can basically recreate your soul through a technological upload. And so I guess what I'm trying to get with this statement, where I'm trying to get with this is the idea that we live 150 years, that might even be like, we might be like forever. Like maybe this is immortality. If you just are able to like live forever in the cloud, whatever that is, if you were able to upload your brain or upload your consciousness, I suppose is probably the better way to put it. Will you be able to just, live forever in this kind of technological, it could be a utopia, it could be a nightmare, I suppose. It's an idea that's feasible, I think, in our lifetimes.
Have you seen the movie Ready Player One?
No, man, I should. I heard it's like, I need to see that.
It's literally one version of that in understandable terms. It just an interpretation of it. Yeah, you got to see it, man. I mean, look, I think it comes down to what the technology was. What was the technology that we were just coming around to 70 years ago, 100 years ago? I mean, the plane was the plane like the Wright brothers, wasn't that like, I don't know, 1910s, before night? I don't know. So I mean, just think about it,
That's crazy.
I think
that's a crazy idea. I mean, it's a crazy thought that the plane was only invented in the last century. That's wild. That's insane. It's true.
So, well, earlier, a little bit more than a century, but the point it's
The last
still,
century. The last
yeah,
century.
okay, yeah, it's still, it's this, the point remains is that, yeah, technology is crazy, man. That's why space.
Dude, bro, dude, space, dude. Dude, you know that's space? Space, man.
Do they get it, man?
Dude, so hard, man.
Maybe, yeah, maybe if we get bored or run out of ideas, we can just invite
Guest speaker.
a guest speaker to say only if it's worth it, and they can actually add to the conversation here.
There's never we'll never run out of ideas, man. So if we're gonna do a little bit, if that's a good way to transition here, I want to talk a little bit about liberal internationalism. So you know, we're talking about, you know, new world order, one world order. I mean, a lot of these liberals think that we should just have one government to rule us all, probably including yourself. Um, and you know, this is a problem, right? But maybe it's not. And you sent me a podcast earlier that I actually haven't listened to yet. And you know, tell me about the liberal international order that Donald Trump is currently you know, putting into harm's way. By the way, quick shout out for all of his look. State of the Union just happened. It's always just a big show. It's just it's nonsense. Someone writes a thing that you think is going to be well received. I thought it was actually well received. I don't like. It got the feminists to clap at one point. You know, it got the whoever to clap. Whatever. I think it was bipartisan. I thought it was actually a pretty centrist speech for all of Donald Trump's flaws, and he has many. I do think he can veer into centrism, and you know, he might have committed treason. We don't know yet. He probably has done illegal things. However, I think it was a pretty decent speech. So I know that he is he's a protectionist, and he's potentially an isolationist. I don't know if he veers that far into it, but I do know that he does not believe in the liberal international order, which he would see as a globalist kind of cabal. But that's not true, because he actually is. He is kind of a just like everybody else, man, in terms of his foreign
He
policy.
is. I believe he is a unilateralist. I think that he wants to engage with other countries on whatever his brain thinks is good for him, and doesn't really matter about the United States. But the guy read from a teleprompter, and he was a big boy, and he did a big boy job by reading the teleprompter without. I mean, that's what it was. He just read a speech from a teleprompter that was not shouting and saying insane things on Twitter. So I think inherently you're going to look at that. At least I looked at it. I mean, I didn't watch it, but he's acting normal, and the speech, he's a normal person's delivering the speech. It's not in all caps. Thank God we're used to this again. I mean, I think that, yeah, there were parts that were good. He talked about the prison reform probably, and I'm talking out of my ass because I haven't watched it, but I do know that he said something about, like, you know, peace and legislation, or, you know, he made a little rhyme there, peace and legislation, or war and investigation. It's like, so that's the trade. So that's the trade-off. It's either war and investigation or peace and, you know, like, come on. So
that was the low point, obviously.
Well, it's like, come on, the guy, liberal snowflakes. I mean, you're under investigation because you were a freaking idiot and fired your FBI director, and then went on TV and said I was going to fire him anyway, twice, and then invited Russians into the Oval Office and told a top secret code level Israeli secret intelligence to the Russians, and there was no. I mean, the guy is a moron, so there's nobody should have any sympathy for him. He projected obstruction of justice on live television like a freaking idiot. So, you know, snowflake that. So whatever. But that was his thing, and good for him. If it was able to produce anything and be productive, that would be great. But I just think that it's all theater and nothing is actually going to get accomplished mostly the next year. So everything's going to be done, be consumed. Oversight is going to consume everything, which as it should, because this person has been just a corrupt president from the start. So the whole administration is going to be swallowed up in oversight and legal battles, and nothing's going to get accomplished anyway. So it was just political theater for him. And he won over some people, so that's good. Good for him. Yeah, man, the liberal world order, the podcast is good. It's worthwhile.
It's the LawFair blog, which you have plugged on this show before. And so you sent me this I guess one of the latest editions of this, and the little blurb with it says, many critics of Donald Trump's foreign policy say the president has undermined the liberal international order, but some progressives question whether liberal internationalism was worthwhile to begin with. So basically it talks about how we can talk about the successes and failures of liberal internationalism, the significance of Donald Trump's effect on it, and what the future holds for the liberal international order. So in your words, what is the liberal international order? Is it being threatened, and does it need to be preserved or saved, or is it even a thing?
So I think, what is the liberal world order? Everyone, the standard definition, and I guess, since this is rather fresh in my mind, maybe I'm plagiarizing all of this from the podcast, so don't sue me, LawFair. I love you, LawFair. I will worship you.
It's a law blog, man. If anything, you don't want to. You don't want Bob blog to sue you.
Yeah. So I mean, the standard assumption of, or the standard idea of what the liberal world order is, what Woodrow Wilson, making the world safe for democracy, and that was the original idea that came into being after World War II with the United Nations, and basically the world, the order, the laws, the rule of law that governs or is supposed to govern the world. But in reality, that hasn't been the case, is what this guy is persuasively argued, saying that it's been a consistently militarized period of time. There's been just more or less constant state of war. And while it's true that some of the poorest people have improved their lives, China mostly, and some other places, it's basically been the two poles. The rich have gotten super rich, and the poorest people have moved up, and it's been an erosion of everyone in between. And his point, which I found to be right on target, was just that this middle group, like blue collar Americans, they have legitimate grievances that need to be addressed, because as voters, they are very important and significant in
as people, they need to have futures.
And as people, his point was, his qualifier was like, in the big, relatively, these blue collar Americans have it better than people in Central Africa. Let's acknowledge that. But they're important people, and they're an important voting bloc, and they have a lot to say in determining what the outcome is, quite frankly, for those people in other countries too. I mean, the United States of America has a lot of footprints in a lot of places. So, and the same goes for China and other countries. So, it's important to have those countries be stable. I mean, you could go down the whole list, but the critique is that something needs to be done to address the concerns of those people around the world. It's not just the United States, right? Populism is pretty much everywhere, or a lot of places. So it's a matter of addressing those people. And one of his main points was that there's going to be a reshuffling of party dynamics and party loyalties. There's people on both sides who've been kind of crowded out by the center of each party, who have run things for the last 70, 80 years or whatever. And because they have been, to a certain extent, delegitimized, they shouldn't, you can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's things that need to be kept from both sides and whatnot. But he said that the parties there's going to be a reshuffling, new ideas, new loyalty. It's going to, maybe not tomorrow, but in the next couple of years. And I believe that. I don't see how that could not. I don't see that not happening and liking that outcome. I think that people are pretty serious about things changing.
Well, I think a lot of the interventionist policies, I think, that both parties have taken on, these neocons and these neoliberals, I guess if you can call them that. I mean, Obama did continue a lot of the Middle Eastern foreign policy that Bush kind of enacted, and that was a problem. And Trump is flawed because I think his foreign policy in terms of the Middle East is all over the place, and that was a bit in the State of the Union that I had a problem with. This is where a candidate like Tulsi Gabbard comes in, who is a non-interventionist, who is the peace candidate so far on the liberal side for 2020, is someone who is a progressive on the American front, but also has a sane foreign policy that is not going to. She's someone who is willing to respect the sovereignty of nations. Now, you can say that meeting with Assad is an evil act, or you can say that it's a fact-finding mission, and that she thinks that U.S.-backed rebels in Syria are terrorists. Because the United States arms, al-Nusra and al-Qaeda and ISIS in Syria. She's someone who says we don't want this anymore, and I think she is a peace candidate. And I don't know, she's a sane, level-headed person. She's not the Trump on the left, like you have said. You're skeptical of her ties towards Russia. She doesn't have ties towards Russia. This is something you've been fed, I think, and I think that she needs to be someone that we look at more closely, because she differs from both parties in the sense that she is against endless war in the Middle East. I don't care what you say about how we need to be everywhere in the world. I agree that we need to be everywhere in the world. Peace Corps needs to be everywhere in the world. Our State Department needs to be everywhere in the world. Our military doesn't. And so far, I don't know if a lot of people, or at least candidates running for president, really believe that we do need to slowly, like stop this military industrial complex from being the American globalist presence that it is in a lot of these Middle Eastern countries. For example, she's a veteran. She's a war veteran too, which is, I think, a great sign. I think the Democrats need people that have fought in wars. Why you're just so anti people that have good ideas, man? What are you just going to?
I'm gonna tell you. I have 3 points. Point number 1: David Duke has endorsed her.
And I'll tell you why. And this is why.
Point everything else. It doesn't matter. That's it. It's it. David Duke has endorsed this person. Case closed. Okay. There is something wrong. There is something wrong with that. Why is David Duke, who endorsed Donald Trump, now endorsing this?
Let me tell you why. Let me respond. You can talk to you about your second points. This is why. He's a troll. Okay, he's a white nationalist troll. B, his main reason for that is because he's veering away from Trump's foreign policy because he sees Trump as an Israeli puppet. He is against Israel. He doesn't want America to be involved in Israel, and So if this is the foreign policy of Tulsi Gabbard to look after American interests as opposed to Israel's, someone like David Duke, who is an aberrant individual who I don't think anyone sane on probably either side wants to be associated with, she immediately disavowed his support. She immediately disavowed his support.
Obviously.
If David Duke supported me, it's not my problem. It's not. I didn't invite him to support me, but I can disavow him and move forward from there because she's a 37-year-old Hawaiian, half Polynesian Hindu individual, a woman. She's not a white nationalist.
Okay, I think that I think that it's a weird situation.
It's super weird.
I think that he must be supporting her probably for domestic reasons too.
Yeah.
And to me, it's more than just Israel, and I think that we should be concerned about the domestic reasons that he is interested.
America first on the left. It's America first on the left.
Yeah, and so I don't know. So that's my first my first point. My second one is that just because we need to separate anti-interventionism from a total just abject. Again, we don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Okay, America has principles here. So in 10 years or 20 years after this period of time is written about, do we really want to just like throw everything away and say no? We're just going to go. So I think there should be a.
You gotta repeat that. You got to repeat that. We're just going to go on our own. Is that what you said? Which is not what she stands for. It's not. By the way, it's not what she stands for.
Okay, well, let me finish here. The fact that she is so unwilling to identify and call Assad an enemy of the United States of America or an adversary of the United States of America, somebody who does not share our interests and are in a future that the rest of the world wants to live in, the guy gasses his whole, his population and is responsible for the deaths of like however many people in his country, all the people who've left and fled from it, whatever. I mean, the guy, it's been horrible. And she is unwilling to even say that he's an adversary or an enemy or whatever. So I think that says a lot about it. If she can't even identify that, what would she consider somebody to not, I mean, and that's what I think we should be concerned about.
She's against intervention in Syria. She's against regime change anywhere. She's against supporting terrorists anywhere. She's against drone strikes. She's against military strikes. I am for all of those positions, essentially.
Yeah, look at the application of it, though. I mean, like it's great to be against all that stuff, but like you have to also look at the real world a little bit, and see, yeah, it's great to be for all of these certain things in the world. I mean, but I think that people would say, it's great to have universal basic income. And I mean, that's the standard trope is, yeah, everyone wouldn't it be great to not have a job and just get paid money or have all these, I mean, you can't have all these things. So I think that, like, look, we live in the 21st century. Terrorism is not going to go away because Tulsi Gabbard gets elected and says that I don't want to do any of this stuff. And this is why I think it takes a little bit more. You take the next step and say, who would want America to do these things? Who would want America to go swing to the other side of the spectrum and crawl up into our little shells and pretend that the rest of the world doesn't exist, and we're not going to seriously attempt to solve some of these problems.
China, not Russia.
China and Russia. Look, America is the most powerful country. If America can become less powerful in any way, that helps those two countries. If they're looking at it from a competitive standpoint. I mean,
but let me say something about Tulsi Gabbard, because so many people on the left are just going to write her off immediately because of what they've heard, right? Nobody really wants to talk about anything that she said or facts. From Wikipedia, Gabbard was one of 3 members of Congress to vote against House Resolution 121, which condemned the government of Syria and, quote, other parties to the conflict for war crimes and crimes against humanity. That is cited from Congress.gov, saying that though Assad is, quote, a brutal dictator, the resolution was, quote, a war bill, a thinly veiled attempt to use the rationale of humanitarianism as a justification for overthrowing the Syrian government. She explained that the resolution, quote, urges the administration to create additional mechanisms for the protection of civilians, which is coded language for the creation of a so-called no-fly safe zone. Gabbard has rejected suggestions for the creation of a no-fly zone in Syria, stating that it would cost, quote, billions of dollars, require tens of thousands of ground troops, and a massive U.S. air presence, and it won't work, and that such a move would risk confrontation with Russia, which you think is the thing. But look, she's fought in a war. I believe she fought in Iraq. She's a war veteran. You're not. She knows the what it's like to be on the ground in a war. Donald Trump said that Vietnam was his own personal, like not getting an STD during the Vietnam years was his own personal Vietnam, right? What is Elizabeth Warren? You know, does she know anything about being in a war? You know, she wrote American Indian as her race like 3 decades ago. She's insane. Everybody's insane. I don't think Kamala Harris is going to be any kind of like a peace candidate. I don't know. We don't know. But so far, I'm impressed with the moves that Gabbard has. At least she's someone different. At least she's someone different, and she's going to stir the pot a bit. I'm not saying I'm supporting her. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, have her in the race.
Well, yeah. I mean, to a certain extent, I am very suspicious of the pot stirring, like you said, and I'm just suspicious. After 2016, I'm calling paranoid, but people like to play games in elections and muck up elections and try to influence it because we know that it's been proven successful. So we should all I want people to do in 2020 is to think real. I mean, maybe take it just to have a little bit extra layer of scrutiny over certain candidates, and that goes to George Shultz as well, right? Like Howard Schultz. Yeah, that guy can. I would prefer that he not run. So it goes to both sides. I'm not just saying that about Tulsi Gabbard. There's some other people, and 2020 is just going to be a batshit crazy year, just a insane year politically. It's probably just going to be never ending. It's going to be in your face, and there's going to be horrible political attack ads and just whatever.
Yeah, and I'm excited for it. I think the Democrats really have some soul searching to do, and I think it's great. Just like the Republicans had in 2016, where you had a million candidates. You figured out what the Republicans were all about. You figured out that Donald Trump was the alpha in a bunch of Jeb Bushes, and you realized that, well, this is, and Lindsey Graham and Marco Rubio, little Marco, Lion Ted. I mean, that shit worked so well because those guys were all asshole, weak beta cucks, basically. And Donald Trump was the bully in the room, and he was in the middle of the stage on those debates, and it worked for him. I think the Democrats, I'm very thankful. Look, I'm not an identitarian. I believe that we have to look at political issues, but I don't believe in identity politics as a way forward, to govern and to run a campaign on. So therefore, I'm not really stoked on someone like a Christian Gillibrand, who has been proud to say that she's an intersectionalist and that the future is female. I mean, yeah, whatever. Future is everybody, okay? But I do think that it is a very positive thing that there are so many women running. I really like that. I do think this is a positive step. I think I'm actually proud. I'm stoked that there are this many women running. I don't think an old white guy like Joe Biden should run. I don't think Bernie Sanders should run. It's cool that we have Julian Castro. I mean, diversity is the country is diverse, and I'm glad that the Democratic Party is putting forward candidates that reflect that. And I think it's great that I think the front runners on the Democratic side so far are women. I don't know how that's going to play into a battle with Donald Trump. I think it's going to be epic. I don't think Hillary was the right woman to go up against him. And I think a Kamala Harris could do pretty well against him potentially. I don't think she would win against him, but I think this is it's a solid sign that at least we have, you know, different voices coming out. I think that the Democratic presidential primary is going to be a fascinating look. I said this before about what the soul of the Democratic Party is. We're going to have to do a lot of, it's going to be a purge, kind of like a weird, like a lot. It's going to be very emotional, and I look forward to it.
And the general election is going to be a reflection on the soul of America. Yeah. I mean, if Kamala Harris could not beat Donald Trump, and that says all you need to know about the United States of America.
The economy is good. People vote with their pocketbooks. The economy is great everywhere.
Yeah, but there's more. I mean, unless
to you, but people that are working and, you know, in farms and, you know, paying taxes and whatever, they see that the economy is booming under Donald Trump. That's what they care about.
Then this country is just about, I mean,
money. This country is only about money. It's a capitalist country. I've realized that here in Las Vegas. This is the most capitalist place in the world.
Look,
this country is only about money.
At the end of the day, people's lives are not better. Most people, their lives are not better than 2016. In fact, a lot of people, their taxes went up because of the tax bill. Just regular middle-class people who, you know, whatever state it depends on how it shook out. But yeah, you know, but at the same time, it's like, don't you expect more from people? Like, don't you expect people to just look around them and, you know, you expect certain things from certain people, like your family, your friends, the people that you work with, your associate. You want to believe those people are good people, and I'm not saying that they're bad people if they continue to vote for him, but I'm saying I want us to saying that they're bad people. I just hope that most people for 2020 will be able to just use their head instead of, you know, I mean, it's their heart. They should use their heart too. I think that you could use that, but instead of being fearful about everything. I mean, that's what comes to Americans. As far as I know, I choose to believe the presidents of the past who said that Americans are not fearful. We're a courageous, adventuresome, risk-taking, powerful country. And so that's the message that I choose. And if anybody wants to keep voting for Donald Trump, who is fear itself, then fine, all the more power to him. But like, I'm going to think you're not making the right choice is the nicest way I will say that. And because God forbid the snowflakes of the right, you know, hear me say something else and think otherwise. So, yeah, I think that that's a good, I just would like to have, I mean, call me an idealist or naive, but I would like to have the best ideas win. You know, I guess that might be impossible with human beings being emotional creatures, but I just think whoever has the best ideas should win, and whoever can argue those and convince the most people that those ideas are the best, then, like, my God, win it and go the whole way. But as long as people act rationally, you know, and think about and what are the actual implications of certain policies.
We are living in fearful times. I feel bad I just cut you off, but we're living in fearful times, and the faster things move, the more people are going to want to go towards some kind of traditionalism of what they think is the norm. This is why Trump won. This is why you're missing the essence of why people are voting for this guy, because he presents some kind of something to hold on to. I don't think it's only I don't think it's just a racial, like, white thing. I think you think it is.
I think it's just, I don't think it's a racial thing. I don't think it's
part of it is. Part of it might be, yeah.
I think it came down to pure and simple. People didn't want Hillary. Like, it's not so much Trump as, I mean, we keep forgetting the majority of people voted for Clinton, and it was just as much pro-Trump as it was anti-Clinton. maybe in fact more anti-Clinton. Who knows?
It's a good point.
But so, we'll see this. That's why this next election is so important. I mean, that's why I want to believe that people will choose not to vote for him, because look at their bank accounts, look at their lives, look at the insanity of the world around us, and is this working? Well, we've tried 4 years of this, and maybe we'd be better off trying something entirely different, because how much worse can it get? And is it worth it to try and hope at least things will get better? They get, then, at least we made an effort to try and see if it could get better. I mean, that is as simple as the argument. That's all the argument that you need. So, I don't know. There's some female senator, I think, from maybe Ohio. I forget her name, but a lot of people, she just announced or is about to announce or something. So, some people have been talking about her, and I don't really know anything about her, but they're people I respect. So I guess that's maybe me being lazy, but I'll find more about her too. But, yeah, there's a lot of different people. It's going to be interesting, and the Republican Party has already endorsed Donald Trump, so who knows what's going to happen on the Republican side. Obviously, Donald and the Republican Party is scared of having a challenger to Trump, so that says a lot about that in the Republican Party today. So it's going to be an interesting election.
Look, I am just excited for when what's the next one? It's going to be, I guess so, 2020 it's going to be Trump's probably going to win. 24 it's going to be Kanye, and then in 28 it's going to be Ivanka versus probably you. So I'm excited. I know that this might be a little bit, I don't want to give our listeners a wrong impression here, but yes, I am endorsing Matthias Connolly for the 2028 election of President of the United States. I only say 28 because it's the first one that he'll be eligible, because he's a youngin. He's a sprightly millennial, and that's definitely going to be a great thing. So I'm excited. Mark your calendars. Matthias Connolly is going to run against Kanye West on the right, and he's going to have some good challengers. The Rock, probably. I bet Oprah will probably run by then. It'll be good. Bernie Sanders might run that year. We'll see what happens. I can't wait for the future.
Yeah, man.
Love it. America, baby.
Maybe I'll be living in Latin America 2028.
Should we get some people to do a little bit of a interview here? Anybody?
Anybody? Is that guy looking?
I think he's just trying to spend some money on the slot machines.
If somebody comes by and wants to talk, by all means.
Look, let's close it out, man. What's your closing statement?
I didn't think of one, so if you've got one off.
What else is new? You don't come prepared. You don't think of closing statements. You're basically just a worthless caster.
Yeah, man. I'm not pulling my weight. I got to do.
What's wrong with you? What's wrong with you, Matthias?
You're more forgetting leg day.
Bro, you don't forget leg day.
You can edit that one out in the post.
There's no editing, man. This is just live and raw. It's the state of everything. Signing off.
You don't have any closing statement for real?
Well, last night I went to I went to this back alley. I drove by the Trump Tower, Trump International, and it was completely uninviting. I couldn't even find. I was actually going to go, and I couldn't even find a way in. Like, there was only like an employee entrance. There's no parking lot. It was like the most uninviting thing ever. Like, dude, I was gonna like give you my money for a beer or something, and I'm glad I didn't now. But instead, I went across the street, and there was like some shady ass strip club, and it's like, what's the point of this? Like $50 cover, like shady back alley. Like it said it all though. It was a very American moment. 'Cause I do think Las Vegas is kind of like a quintessential American city because it's excess, it's decadence, it's depravity, it's wasting all your money on complete nonsense. And I mean, you might get lucky, you might win big, but the chances are you're just going to be depressed and broke. And so that's to me, it's an apt metaphor for what America is. It's immense possibility, and anything is possible. But when anything is possible, that means anything is possible, and that's pretty fucked up. So, hey, America, baby, I love this place, and it is what it is. And I mean, look around me; it's all fake. This is it's like Wonderland, but it's not real, right? So look, America is very real. I think the real aspect of America is once you get out to the Wild West or the Appalachians, or you get out in nature and you drive on the open road and you just go forever, and you're out there and you see the stars and you feel oneness with the natural world and what this place really stands for and what it is and what its people are all about. We're not racist Indian conquerors. We're humans that are a part of this larger world, and we have the potential to do our best to make not only this country but the entire world a better place. We all have different ways about that, but I think as long as we have that similar goal, I think we'll be okay.
I agree, man. I'm gonna follow up with my own thing. I'm finishing up basically the definitive biography, or not biography, it's just presidential book on Ronald Reagan. And yet again, I've got one quote from this author about Ronald Reagan and the budget deficits that he ran up. Super sexy final topic, but he says, quote, but in a sense is an inadequate defense to economic negligence of the magnitude practiced by the Reagan administration. The deficit catastrophe was not a natural disaster that came with whistling out of the blue. Reagan chose to ignore many warnings, and then it goes on and on. And I just thought that was one of the most just effective descriptions of the irresponsibility of the person that we worship most in political circles, and just it's the political air we breathe. And he did a lot. And I'll say this: there's another sign on Reagan's desk on his desk that said, "There is no limit to what a man can do or where he can go if he doesn't mind who gets the credit." So the guy had a lot of good stuff. I think that's a good. He was both sides. He was a good guy. He did a lot, but there was also some irresponsible things. He wasn't perfect, and I think we're living out we are experiencing that today.
He came up with "Make America Great Again."
Yeah, let's make America great again. Here we are.
Let's do it. Let's make America great again.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's whatever. I'm not going to even comment on that. Fuck that saying. Because MAGA and all that and Trump, I'm over it.
Yeah, well, that's that. So I guess we're done here.
All right, man. Have the best of luck on those slots.
I'm done. I cashed out. I got my $40. I'm chilling.
Come on, man. You could double it. You could double those winnings.
That's the American conundrum. You can always have more and more and more. But maybe the faster we go, the sicker we get. Another Joshua Cooper Ramo bit that I've read. And you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to hit the slots, baby. All right, we'll see you later.
See ya.
Signing off. Alex. What's your name?
Matthias.
Trump is daddy.